Hey everyone, I'm Andy,
And I'm Sean.
and this is the Commander's Brew.
This week, Nethroi, from zeros to heroes.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the Commander's Brew here on YouTube. Guys, if you like what you're seeing, if you like the show, one great way to help support us here is to hit subscribe. We're trying to get to that 10,000 benchmark, and we're getting very, very close. 10K subscribers. It's on the horizon. So if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. If you haven't told a Commander playing friend who might like the show, a budget-minded player perhaps, or even if they're not, maybe let them know and say, hey, this is a really great YouTube channel and a great podcast. That'd be great. Otherwise, you can always check out patreon.com/commandersbrew if you want to get involved directly and donate some money and help us make the show that way, but also help us make the show in the way that, you help us brew decks. And we've been having a number of new patrons in the past couple of weeks, which is incredible considering the shape the world is in. But they've recently been jumping into our deck brewing chats, and they've been giving us great new ideas. So it's a lot of fun. So I urge you to check it out. Patreon.com/commandersbrew. Check out the Discord. It's really cool. But let's start talking about this latest deck from Commander's Brew. That latest deck, the deck this week, is a cool one. It is, as you know, I believe it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago now, we talked about the Mutate commanders and how it's a parasitic form mechanic, and how it's kind of tough to brew around them for that reason. But then we were both kind of inspired. Sean and I both felt like we could do this. We could make a pretty cool deck. And the Vadrock deck from last week was awesome, cool spin on it. And I think this deck is no different. Nethroi, Apex of Death, is the Mutate commander we chose for Ikoria this week, and it's got an interesting and fun spin on it. And I think you're going to like this one. So let's talk about Nethroi. Let's talk about what we're actually dealing
Nethroi?
with. Who is Nethroi? I love the idea of like this creature's name is just Roy. But they had to make it magic-y, so they were like, I don't know, Nethroi?
Nethroi has a couple siblings.
Nethgil.
Nadroi.
Neth Dave.
Neth Dave. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Neth Jeremy.
I hope we get to... Can we get one of Nethroi's siblings for a commander interview one day?
I think it's very possible to be able to make that work.
Yeah.
Nethroi Apex of Death is the 2 white, black, green. So we're talking Abzan. Legendary Cat Nightmare Beast. Now, if you're like me, you think there's very little cat in this Cat Nightmare Beast when it comes to the art on this one. It's all beast and nightmare. Truly, where is the cat? I don't see any cat. It's got fur.
One of the eyes.
Yeah, maybe the eyes. A little bit. And maybe the ears. But truly, look at it. This looks like some kind of like I don't know, like
Looks like a centipede.
Centipede, but like also a Highland cow. You know the shaggy cows.
Yeah.
You ever seen those?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like that, and also like part like what's got antlers. So it's like part elk. Anyways,
Are those ghost skull clouds? What are those clouds of ghost skulls?
Those look like cat skulls. They do.
Ugh.
Anyways, so it's 5 mana for a 5/5 with Death Touch and Lifelink, but it also has Mutate, and this is one of the rare Mutate creatures where the Mutate cost is pretty significantly more than the original. Sometimes you'll find it being the same or a little more. Most times it's actually less, and in this case it's like 7 mana, whereas the original casting cost is 5. So it's 4 Selesnya hybrid, black. To mutate Nethroi, and whenever this creature mutates, you return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is
That's a lot.
This is a lot. This is a powerful ability. You're able to pull back a lot of stuff with this. Even if we're talking some big chunky creatures, you can get a decent number of them, right? You're talking, 5/5 and a couple 2/2s, 5/5, 3/3s, whatever. However, I will say this. I reached out to the Discord, and I got to give the first shout out of the episode here to our man Chiefy, because he gave us a sweet idea. What if we had a bunch of 0/0s? What are you talking about? Well, in our graveyard,
so we could get all of them back.
So we could get everything back if we wanted. Get the whole deck in there. Now, it's less of a combination of like trying so hard to combo out that way, more so that we're just getting hot value by getting any number of our creatures back at any point. Even we do even have a handful of creatures that actually have power, but most of them will have 0, especially in their graveyard. And how is that possible? Well, let me talk to you about that when we talk about our neat moves.
Working on a neat moves.
All right, I think that was Neth Jeremy that came in and said neat moves there.
Neth Jeremy.
Neat moves.
Neth
Hey, bud. So, Abzan colors, Nethroi, talking about graveyards, talking about mutate, talking about 0/0 creatures. What do we want to do? We want to ramp up, obviously, to get to 7, because that's a lot. Along the way, getting some value from either some type of mill strategy, some type of sacrificing creature strategy, which is nice. And then just Nethroi all back for some big-time ETB value. And as you'll see, some +1/+1 counter strategies. So basically what we're doing is we're getting 0/0s that when they come in, they get +1/+1 counters. Sean, read the first 2 cards here for me, will ya?
No problem, Andy. How about Fertilid, 2 and a green, elemental, 0/0, but it enters with 2 +1/+1 counters, and we can pay 1 and a green and remove a +1/+1 counter, and target player searches their library for basic land, puts it in battlefield tapped, shuffles the library. Fertilid's an EDH classic. It's a 0/0, not a 2/2 like you probably have it in your brain.
That's right.
Scourge of Skull of Vale, 2 and a green. Hydra, 0/0 with trample. Enters with 2 +1/+1 counters. Tap, sack another creature. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on Scourge of Skull of Vale equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. Okay. And Nethroi is looking at the power to bring back from the graveyard. So even if we had a low power, high toughness, that's great for Scourge of Skull of Vale.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't even really come into play at all. But look at these 2 creatures, right? We have 2 0/0s. We have relevant abilities on both, being the ramp ability from Fertilid, the trample from the Scourge, and the sacrifice ability, of course. Team that up with Nethroi coming in as a 5/5 Death Touch lifelink. Like, you're going to gain a lot of life if Nethroi ever mutates on these guys, in addition to all the awesome stuff that you're going to get back from your graveyard, right?
Yeah.
So like that's the beauty of mutate, and that's why this deck is that's why this is the central piece of this deck is mutating onto these 0/0s, but then we're getting counters. So our Nethroi is massive because we're going to be able to put even more counters. Like Scourge just gets bigger and bigger every turn. And if we ever mutate onto it, we get all those creatures back plus Nethroi's big. So that's like a pretty cool like thing to build around, a cool ability to build around. But that's not the only thing we got going on in this deck. Starting with Servant of the Scale, it's a single green for a 0/0. It enters the battlefield with 1 counter on it. When Servant of the Scale dies, you put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Servant of the Scale. So even if we're down to 1 here, that's going to be able to we're going to be able to move a counter around if the Servant ever dies. Scrounging Bandar is a cool little card, 1 and a green for 0/0. It enters with 2 counters on it, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters from Scrounging Bandar onto another target creature. And that all works really nicely with Incubation Druid, 1 and a green for the O2. Again, a 0 powered card, although not one that enters with counters on it, to be noted. What the Druid does is she taps to add 1 mana of any type of land that you control could produce. I always shortcut that to any color, and you shouldn't, because you got to watch what you have.
Sometimes that has definitely burned me, where I'm just like, my commander's 3 colors. I've got 2 on the board and Incubation Druids. Therefore, I have all 3 colors.
Yep, 100%.
I did not.
And then, like, the thing is like most people probably do too. So I bet you this goes unnoticed all the time at tables, but
sure.
it's good to note it. However, if Incubation Druid has a +1/+1 counter on it, and this is maybe why we do this, you add 3 mana of that type instead. So you're adding even more mana, so it gets even more confusing. Anyways, 3 green also, and you can adapt 3. So you can put 3 +1/+1 counters on her. If she has none on her already, you can't do it if there's already counters on her, right? She won't get adapted. You can't adapt once there's +1/+1 counters. But if you can slide one over, that's a cheap way to get Incubation Druid to be able to make 3 mana on a tap and get us that Nethroi even faster.
Yeah.
Servant and Scrounging Bandar also just working well with Nethroi as well. Like I said, 0/0 creatures. That's the main theme here.
Do you want to hear about another 0 to hero?
I love it.
There's a 6 mana card called Workhorse.
It's a real workhorse.
Old school.
It's a true workhorse.
Artifact creature horse. And it's a 0/0, but it enters with 4 +1/+1 counters, and you can remove a +1/+1 counter to add a colorless mana. That's an activated ability. That's a mana ability. So you can just get 4 mana, and then this thing disappears back in the graveyard. We can use that 4 mana to help get Nethroi out, and then put Workhorse right back on the battlefield because it's 0 power.
That's right.
We've also got Shirei, Shizo's Caretaker. 4 and a blue for a legendary creature. 4 and a black, sorry. Legendary creature spirit. 2/2. This is a 2/2. This is the biggest creature in the deck.
Biggest creature I've ever seen, yeah.
Whenever a creature with power 1 or less is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step, which would be the end of the current turn if you sacrifice it in your turn or something. If Shirei is still on the battlefield. So a lot of these creatures with counters die because we're removing counters. So the game will recognize their power upon death as 0 or 1, like Workhorse, for example. So on our end step, Workhorse just comes back by itself if Shirei is out there.
I had a suggestion of this card in the Discord, and I saw it immediately after I put Shirei in the deck. So I was doing my searches and I was looking up and doing it myself while the crew were, coming up with cards. And I was like, oh, Shirei. I was like, oh, I think this card's going to be pretty good. And then someone was like, I have a Shirei deck. I have a Shirei deck that does this. And it's like, oh, I have an Abzan Shirei deck. And then someone else was like, what if we just made this a Shirei deck? I was like, those are all great ideas. And I already did put her in the deck. So awesome. I believe some combination of Neil G., new patron, by the way, welcome Neil, Loki Dragon, and Papadillo. They were all talking about, I think, similar things there. So very cool. Shirei's awesome. Awesome.
I hear the name Papadillo and I'm like, this person makes pizza.
Yeah, Papadillo does sound like that.
Papadillo's Pizza? Do you want to go get a slice of Papadillo down at Papadillo's?
There was a place. Oh no, we had a real place in the mall that we worked at. I worked at a grocery store when I was in high school. And it was in a mall, and in that mall was not Papa John's. That's the one that is in the States and not really in Canada. Papa Luigi's pizza. Let me tell you, biggest slices you ever saw, and the pepperoni like bike tires. Like it's just the hugest pepperonis. It was an amazing slice.
I used to love little small pizza joints where they decided to focus on quantity instead of quality.
Yeah, totally.
Just like, screw good pizza. We'll give you 3 pizzas for the price of one. I'm like, sign me up.
Great thing about Papa Luigi's is that you couldn't even you didn't even really order a full pizza from them ever. They just did slices in the mall. So it was like if you went in, and I remember once we went in and tried to order a pizza because we wanted to take it home and have it that night. And they laughed at us, and they're like, "Okay, but we'll have to charge you by the slice." We're like, "Okay, why?" Yeah. But they were great. They were awesome, actually. They were very high quality pizza. And if you went at the end of your workday, it was the end of the mall, closing hours near there. They'll give you 2 slices for the price of 1. Gotta get rid of the day's
that's
pizza.
So much pizza, Andy. I want pizza so bad right now.
I had pizza tonight. It was great. Okay, let's get back to the deck. I mean, I do love talking about pizza. But so Workhorse and Shirei, you can just this is a source of an extra 4 mana every turn. also. So this specifically, these really work well. These two cards really work well together. There's a couple more awesome combos with Shirai, whatever. Really, really great card in the deck. We also have our classic Stinkweed Imp, just because it's our favorite dredge creature. But any dredge creature will do. Anything, any consistent source of milling into your graveyard is going to be very helpful. Also, just great protection. We've talked about Stinkweed Imp so many times. The 1/2 flyer for 3 that lets you, if it deals combat, it basically has like weird death touch. It'll kill something that it hits, right? We also have Golgari Raiders in here as well. So
interesting.
3 and a green for the 0/0 with haste and undergrowth. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. Because there's going to be times when you just drew Golgari Raiders and you have a full graveyard, right? You've like dredged enough off of your guys or whatever, and then you've just like, oh wait, if I play Golgari Raiders right now, it's an 8/8 haste. It's like, okay, I'll do that. Not to mention the times when you can Nethroi and still have it be really big, because you don't have to bring everything back, right? If you can see if there's an open player and they're down to like 12 life or something, and you're like, okay, they're dead from Golgari Raiders if I just bring Golgari Raiders back. Like, that's also a possibility.
That's a move.
It's probably not something that's going to come up super often, but that's definitely a move. And then we also have, oh no, wait, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. That's it. You can read the next one.
Sorry, I just got caught in a brain loop. What happens if you bring everybody back, including Golgari Raiders dies immediately, and then Shirai is like, you are coming back on the next end step. And Golgari Raiders goes, please no, I have no power or toughness.
I'm already
But it comes
dead.
back anyway, and it dies again, and Shirai says, you will get no rest yet. You will come back on the next end step yet again as a 0/0.
Does she
and
do
they're
that?
trapped coming back every end step.
Yeah, you're right. At the beginning of the next end step. Yeah, I guess she'll bring it back every time.
I guess that's a may. You don't have to, but
True.
I would torture them if I could.
Yeah.
So what about Rayhan, the last of the Abzan? 1 black green legendary human warrior 0/0. One of the few humans, I assume, can't mutate onto Rayhan.
Right.
Enters with 3 +1/+1 counters. Starts as a 0/0, but this is where the shifting counters sort of became a serious thing in Commander. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature. So it preserves your +1/+1 counters. However, the creature has to die. So I'm thinking to Workhorse. It doesn't work. Like, you can't remove all 4 counters off of Workhorse and then all of those 4 counters go somewhere else. Because Workhorse won't die until there are 0. So Workhorse, but I mean,
Exactly.
If other creatures die that way, this is amazing.
Yeah, Rayhan's really nice for protecting your counters, kind of.
Yeah, huge.
That's just kind of like that just works so well with everything in the deck. Another thing that works so well with everything in the deck is Mirror Entity. 2 and a white for the 1/1 shapeshifter changeling. It's every creature type. Not super relevant, but it is
human.
It is a human though, so you can't mutate onto it.
Mutate.
But you don't really want to mutate onto the Mirror Entity, and that's because you want to keep this separate. But it has a really great ability for this deck. X, until end of turn, creatures you control have base power and toughness XX and gain all creature types. So basically, like, I think someone in the Discord mentioned that they had their Shirai deck works with Mirror Entity because Mirror Entity makes everything a 0/0, and then they see it and it dies, and then Shirai brings it back. That's not really going to work with our deck because our things are already 0/0s, and it's just that they come back with +1/+1 counter. So changing their base, like lowering their base power toughness, isn't going to do anything to 0. However, pumping it up is going to have a big effect, right? Even just going 2/2s, making everything 2/2s is going to essentially double up a lot of the creatures in this deck and have a big impact. So even just paying 5-6 mana is just going to be enough, like it normally is in token decks. But creating those 0/0s and then adding those +1/+1 counters on top of it as a result are going to be very, very good. And if you'll note, like, a lot of these creatures that are not 0/0s, they all have very low power toughness still. Like Mirror Entity is a 1/1, so even though it has power, we're still going to be able to bring it plus, 9, 8 other things back in addition to all of our 0/0s.
Have you added up the natural total power of the
I haven't,
Nethroi creatures?
But I could, and I will do it right now.
Yeah, I'll take the next two while you do that. A couple of Larks over here, starting with Vesper Lark, 2 and a white, elemental, 2/1 flying, huge creature, 2/1. When Vesper Lark leaves the battlefield, return target creature with power 1 or less, that is most of our creatures, from your graveyard to the battlefield, and has evoke for 1 and a white. So we can evoke it so it'll appear and immediately be sacrificed, and we will get to bring something with 1 or less power from the graveyard. Evoke was a way to turn creatures sort of into spells because they don't stick around as creatures for very long.
Yeah.
And this is sort of meant to remind us of Revelark, 4 and a white for an elemental. It's a 4/3. This has got to be the base creature in the deck that isn't Nethroi.
It is, yeah. The Revelark and one other one that we'll talk about are the two largest.
4/3 flying. When it leaves the battlefield, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's like a pumped up version of what's it called? Vesper Lark.
Yeah.
But this one evokes for 6, 5 and a white. So, and you usually want to evoke these if you don't have a sack outlet because you probably want the effect right away.
Yeah, yeah. And spoiler alert, we do have some really good sack outlets in the deck. Again, I think we mentioned them in a sec. You've already seen one of them, the Scourge of Skull of Veil, quite nice. But yeah, total power toughness, total power is 26, and it's largely because we have 2 4-power creatures and a couple of 3s. Ooh. But there are big. Like something like 18 0/0s and then 5 1s. So like you get a lot of creatures. Yeah, like Sean was saying, Revelark and Vesper Lark are very similar in that they're going to be sweet to bring, like I mentioned, like bringing back a Golgari Raiders, right? And just for that one activation kind of. There's a couple of key creatures in the deck where it's like, oh, you know what? I actually want there to be a bunch of creatures in my graveyard when this thing hits. And so this will help a lot, both Revelark and Vesper Lark. We couldn't brew an Ikoria counters-based episode without bringing up our boy, the Ozolith. This is actually an awesome card in this deck. 1 generic mana for the artifact, legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. I said we had some sack outlets, well, one of them being Carrion Feeder, the single black 1/1 that says it can't block, but sacrifice a creature and put a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. A lot of ways that we're going to be able to loop bringing creatures back. We've talked about a couple of them already. So Carrion Feeder can get a lot of +1/+1 counters on it easily, and then even sacrifice itself to put those counters on the Ozolith and then move them somewhere else if it wants. Again, this is a 1/1, so very small, very easy to bring back with a Nethroi mutation.
Wow, I like it.
Very cool. And most of the sack outlets are actually pretty small in power toughness, especially the ones that then get bigger as a result. You're going to see that they stay pretty small.
Yeah. Let's talk about a couple other like fun little tools in the deck. I want to start with Grind Clock. There's a 2-mana artifact, and you can tap to put a charge counter on it, but you can also tap to have target player put the top X cards of their library into their graveyard, where X is the number of charge counters. I remember the set that this came out in like draft when it was draftable, and it became an interesting math problem where it's like, there is a point where it's like, if you're trying to mill someone out with this, how long do you start adding counters before you start milling people? Mm-hmm. And there is a correct number for that. But what we want to do is just mill ourselves to get a bunch of stuff in the graveyard. So we really only need to get that first charge counter on it. And then we've got Evolution Sage, 2 and a green, Elf Druid, 3/2. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you proliferate. So we can up the charge counters in addition to all of the other counters, all there.
Yeah.
And it actually occurs to me, with the new Proliferate update, Proliferate used to only affect one kind of counter on a permanent. it has been updated that it affects any kind, as many as you want. Which is now very relevant for the Ozolith, who can hold many different counters of many different kinds. Exactly. So now proliferate works as you would want it to on the Ozolith.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was an update like that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It used to be it used to be because it came out in a set with Infect. And there was a point where it's like, well, if someone has Infect and another counter, you have to choose what you're giving them one more of.
Oh, interesting.
But now, I mean, I guess in Infect it probably doesn't matter because they have positive ones, you have negative ones. But anyway, yeah.
Oh, okay. And there's also Plague Maw Beast.
Yeah.
Which is a cool
one. Yes, 3 green for 4/3, another humongous creature. But you can tap, sack a creature, proliferate. We love sack outlets. We love proliferating in this deck. This card does both.
Yeah. Again, yeah, sacrificing and proliferating, it all works well in the deck. And Grind Clock, yeah, it's going to mill us out. And then there's probably a point where if we're just allowed to proliferate like crazy or put a million charge counters on Grind Clock, like, you can just start milling other people, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's mostly going to be for us, but there might be a point where that becomes relevant. The reason we want them all in there, obviously, is for stuff like we have other mutate graveyard synergies, like Boneyard Lurker. 2 black-green. Also, it mutates for 2, and then 2 hybrid Golgari, so it's actually easier to mutate. It's a 4/4, and whenever this creature mutates, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So I threw a couple extra mutate cards in here, specifically ones that were specifically synergizing pretty well with this deck. I didn't just throw them all in because like there's green, black, and white ones. There's a ton of them, but like I only picked a few because it's not the main focus. Like once you do this once with Nethroi, you kind of don't need to do it that many times after that. But it might be nice to do it once in a while. Like it might be nice to do it one extra time. So if you get a Boneyard Lurker in your hand, like save it until after your Nethroi, and then once you Nethroi onto something, get everything back. Maybe something's happened after that. You save this card, you got it back. Now, bam, you can mutate again. And then you'll get the Boneyard Lurker trigger, and you'll get the Nethroi trigger again. Powerful mechanic in that way. So Boneyard Lurker is going to help us get other permanents from our graveyard to our hands, so we can get any like artifacts, enchantments, whatever it is we have. I don't think we have too many of them, but we have a couple. Next, we also have Migratory Greathorn. This is probably actually the best usage one. Like this has the most practical use in that way, in that it mutates onto something for 2 and a green. It's 3 and a green otherwise for 3/4. When it mutates, you search your library for a basic land card, put it into battlefield tapped, shuffle your library. We want to have mutatable creatures. We want to be ramping. We want to be fixing our mana. And if we mutate this onto Nethroi later, it's great. If we mutate Nethroi onto this, great. We get some extra mana. Perfect. And finally, we have Dirge Bat. 2 black for the 3/3 bat. It mutates for 4 and 2 black. And it has flash and flying. So the creature is going to get flying when you do this. So that's pretty sweet. And you can flash this in, which is killer. So you can do, again, if you've already Nethroid something, or maybe you've even just cast Nethroi out, you can flash Dirge Bat onto Nethroi, get all the stuff back at instant speed, which is bonkers. Also, in addition to that, Dirge Bat has a mutate trigger, which is whenever this creature mutates, destroy target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. So that's powerful also.
Wow.
Yeah, so really, really nice. And like you could include some more mutate stuff if you really wanted. Again, there's some more good green ones, some more good black ones specifically. You want to play with that. You want to find the right number. I didn't want it to be too much like hard on mutate, so much as it was more like casting your commander type of a deck. But this gives us a little flexibility. I think I don't know. I just didn't feel like wanting any more than that. This last one is I think a no-brainer considering the set we're in.
Eerie Ultimatum. This is the Abzan Ultimatum.
Yeah.
White, black, green. That's a total of 7 mana. It's a sorcery, very specific mana cost. You return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. The only repeats we're allowed are lands, but even in 3-color decks, there aren't so many basics. There's a ton of non-basics with different names. So if you're milling yourself and you got a ton of lands in there, you're probably also getting 6 or 7 lands along with your 15 creatures.
This card's bonkers, man. In Commander, this card is just nonsense. It's just wild.
This card is ridiculous in Commander.
You're just going to get every card. There are going to be times where you're going to get every card in your graveyard. Now, I realize that it doesn't get instants and sorceries, but like there are not that many instants and sorceries in this deck. So there will be times where this would get every card in your graveyard back, which is insane.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just incredibly good.
Yeah. Wait, do we have any sack outlets that aren't tap or mana, like that we can just do infinitely?
Yes.
Like your Viscera Seers. So if that were to happen, we could Eerie Ultimatum everything back onto the battlefield in our first main, sack everything that doesn't have haste, so all of those counters go on the Ozolith, and then drop them back on Golgari Raiders at the beginning of combat and just go buck wild.
Ham. Just go ham. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Like, this is a cool, like, kind of combo style graveyard, but it's not, you got to set up quite a bit. So it's, it's not like it's super fast or anything, but it is a lot of fun to get into this deck and to get that graveyard rolling. Just get some of that graveyard protection, get that stuff that gives you hexproof, because that's going to save you from, a couple of the more common types of graveyard removal. So look out for that sort of thing, obviously, as always in these types of decks, but otherwise this is a lot of fun to play. Abzan style, do it. Surprises and discoveries. This is an interesting one. This is a card that came out in Commander 2013, and I laugh at it because it's so bad. And but this is a deck I'm willing to give it a shot in. It's called Naya Soul Beast, and it is 6 green. It is 8 mana for a 0/0 with trample. Obviously 0/0. It's got something going on, and it's not that good, I don't think. But we'll see. When you cast Naya Soul Beast, each player reveals the top card of his or her library. Naya Soul Beast enters the battlefield with X+1/+1 counters on it, where X is the total converted mana cost of all cards revealed this way. I already don't want to play this card anymore because I didn't know it said cast. So forget it. This card is trash, and it's not in the deck anymore.
They made it cost 8?
And you have to cast it, and you reveal it, and it enters the battle with X+1 counters with the CMC. So, like, you're going to hit 1 land, maybe 2. So, like, the fact that this can come in, it's like, okay, I got a Soul Ring and I don't know, something good, like a 4-mana thing.
So that's 4, yeah.
Even if you got a big one, you flipped 6/6, okay, but I got 2 lands and I got something else. Like, anything less than 8/8 is just like brutal, right?
No. You can get 8/8s for 6.
Yeah.
Anything with trample, anything less than, I think, 12 is like below par.
So anyways, I missed that this said cast, so forget about it altogether anyways, like I was saying.
This is a Commander exclusive card. They designed this only for Commander, so that tells us that there was a time when they wanted cards to be fair, and then they made Muldrotha. Like, eventually they made Muldrotha. And they're like, I guess we don't have to worry about this. We don't have to make cards fair.
You know what's crazy? This effect should cost all the text exactly the same. Everything exactly the same except for the mana cost. What would you think is a reasonable Commander price to pay for this?
What do you mean? So like everything's the same, but just change the CMC?
Yeah, just recost Naya Soul Beast.
I don't know, 3 green?
Yeah, I know. 3 green seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Even maybe 4. I don't know. Maybe that's a little too aggressively costed, but 5 seems very reasonable to me.
Yeah.
And then if you take the cast off, even if it's just enter the battlefield, I still don't think that makes it that much. Like it still shouldn't change it that much, because cast,
we have
cast should make it be like 4.
Don't we have, what's that, 11? What's that big thing that's cheap if there's a ton of creatures out there? It costs 1 green, but it's like a friggin' 11/11 or something.
Yeah. There's also an artifact one that's like that. This is the thing, right? Like this, and this wasn't that long ago. Like, this is when I started playing Commander, basically. We've been playing for almost a year, I think, at this point. And I remember, even then, I remember being like, this sucks. And it does. And I was mistaken yet again. So you fooled me, Naya Soul Beast. Get out of my face.
Yeah, get out of here.
I've already done the shout-outs, basically. Chiefy, Neil G, Loki Dragon, Papa Dio. Bunch of other people in there, too. There was a lot of awesome ideas. I basically was like, hey, what would you guys like to see from a deck, and whether or not it's this deck or one in the future? I just kind of wanted to like get a general kind of feel for what what people want to see from the show, and this was one of the ideas. So certainly some of those other ideas you might see pop up as well. But thanks for the help in there, gang.
Thanks, team.
Now it is time for the budget report.
Beeps and pops. This is where we take all the cards and they're all zeros, but some of them have hidden dollar bills underneath them, and that's what the ones we're interested in.
$0. This one, not super expensive. The low was like 82.50. Market value is a little higher up, around the 120-ish level, 125 and so on. But basically we can get this cost down real quick, because the top two cards are way more expensive than I expected them to be. The first one being Rayhan, Last of the Abzan. Like, these partner commanders are just pretty expensive, I guess. We talked about Akiri last week, right? It was like $11, surprisingly. Rayhan's $13.
That's too much.
I haven't even ever seen a Rayhan deck. Like, what's going on? I guess, these old commanders, they just get expensive. They're just, I assume they're not printed enough, or I don't know. Anyways, $13 for Rayhan. It's really good in the deck, but I just don't think you need to spend $13 for this card, honestly. It's not worth $13. It's a good effect, but there's other stuff. Skullbriar is a similar card. I don't know how actually that might be as expensive. I don't even know. I didn't put it in. So that's the most expensive card.
Second most expensive card is Colonian Hydra. This is the 3 green trample 0/0. Enters with 4 counters. The X ones don't work. That's why this one's good, because X is 0 when Nethroi brings it back. But this one enters with 4, and every time it attacks, you double the number of counters on each creature you control. So this is obviously amazing, and it is like $12.
And the crazy thing is this card it got reprinted, and it was down to like $5 because, a while ago it was way more expensive than that. And I was like, oh, great, this card's back down to being a more reasonable price. I can start including it in decks again, maybe. And then before I know it, here we are back up to $15-ish again. So Colonian Hydra, $12, man. And finally, at around closer to $6, which is still, kind of a lot for something like this, but is Hardened Scales. Single green mana for an enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. So obviously a very good effect. Often it works very similar to like a doubling season, because, sometimes you are just moving a single counter around, and that is enough. That's all you need. Hardened Scales is great. I would not cut Hardened Scales, but those other two I could easily see cutting and saving like almost, like $25, like no problem.
Yeah.
Get this down under, $100 probably.
Yeah, that's my goal. I love it when it's under 100.
Yeah, totally. So look out for that. And I would say try and keep Hardened Scales in, because it's really, really, really good in the deck.
Yeah.
What about favorites? One I liked a lot was, I didn't include it in the notes here. Okay. Newsgraph Mob. This is one that I've included in a couple zombie decks previously, but it works really well in this one too. 4 black. It says 0/0 zombie. When it enters the battlefield, you put 5 +1/+1 counters on it. It's one of the bigger effects of that we have in the deck, right up there with like Polukranos, and there's one that puts 8 on. But whenever a player casts a spell, remove a +1/+1 counter from Newsgraph Mob, and if you do, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So this is a player. So this is you too. You get this if you cast something. So this also works really well with Shirai. If this creature dies because of it, Shirai's going to bring it back with another 5 counters on it. Newsgraph Mob has some fun combos in there.
I also don't mind throwing a bunch of Ozolith +1/+1s on there. So just to be like, great, for the rest of the game, I'm just going to get zombies upon zombies as everyone plays.
You're just building my zombie army every time you play something.
Wow.
Yeah, really strong.
Cool. For my favorite, I went with Realm Seekers, 4 green. It's a 0/0 elf scout, but it enters with X +1/+1 counters, as you can imagine, where X is the total number of cards in all players' hands.
Okay, so look at this next to that Naya Soul Beast thing.
Oh boy.
This is so much better already, and you haven't even read the second half of the text yet.
Yeah, I could stop there.
Yeah.
And in Commander, this was also designed for Commander years later, so they figured it out. But it's like, this is probably going to be, what do you think, a 15-15 on average?
Yeah, like pretty easily, yeah.
Maybe one player is down to a few cards, but there's surely a blue player with lots of cards still in their hand. So this is gonna be very big, but it also has an ability to, in a green, remove a +1/+1 counter from Realm Seekers. Search your
I love it.
Realm Seagulls. Search your library for a land card. I did not say the word basic.
Yeah.
Put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it doesn't go right to play. I mean, obviously, we would all love this better if it was basics that went right into play. That would be amazing. But being able to tutor up, like, it's a 3-color deck. We got utility lands. We got other stuff. Like, I'll get all my specialty lands. And so it's just get them out of your deck, get them in your hand, more stuff to play. Great.
Yeah, there it is. Really solid. Getting you some key lands is going to be nice, especially if you're able to, include some of the nice utility lands and things like that care about +1/+1 counters. There's a couple of those, so yeah, it can be really
sure.
great.
There's a Karn's Bastion is a proliferatable land, a land that lets you proliferate.
We got that one in here for sure.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the deck. Very fun to see different strategies that we don't usually combine together really come into play here, and by that I mean the graveyard strategy and the +1/+1 counters. Like, those are so often treated as kind of like separate things. But being able to bring them together with Nethroi this is just a ton of fun. I want to play this deck.
Good boy, Nethroi.
Good boy, Nethroi. You're not a cat. You're a weird goat thing. But okay.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good stuff. Look at us. Huh. Great. Well, that's the deck, everyone. That's the show this week. Thanks for being here. Thanks to listeners. Thanks for everyone for checking out the show. Also, remember, if you're in Canada, check out wizardtower.com. You can use our coupon code Brew and get a little bit off your singles. If you order $15 or more, there's some free shipping involved there. Check it out, wizardtower.com, and Brew is the code. Otherwise, if you're outside of Canada, go to TCGplayer via our affiliate link, which you can find on YouTube below the video, and on your audio show you're going to find it inside the show notes. Follow that link and you'll be able to go to TCGplayer and pick out any cards, even if they're not ones from the deck. If you just follow that link and buy cards, you're going to buy cards from there anyways. You can give us a little slice of it, so that's a way to help support the show. We're seeing people are actually doing it. It's really great. Like, it really does help support the show. Like, if you can't be a patron, that's fine, but you're going to buy cards from TCGplayer. I mean, there you go. You're doing that. You're helping us out a ton. So we really appreciate all of that. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCGplayer affiliate link below.
That helps us out too. And for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.